When disaster strikes, the first thing people rush for is food. Shelves are stripped bare within hours, pantries emptied, and fights break out over the last can of beans. But here's the truth, most won't admit. Food alone won't save you. Atypical. Most won't admit. Food alone won't save you. Not when the power goes out, the water stops running, and all those shiny gadgets you bought turn into useless bricks. A mountain of rice and beans won't mean a thing if you don't have the tools to actually survive. See, survival isn't just about calories, it's about control, resourcefulness, and knowing how to stretch those calories when everything else fails. And here's the kicker. The real survival tools aren't the flashy gear you see in viral prepper videos or overpriced emergency kits. They're the cheap, forgotten items already lying around your house, buried in a drawer or stuffed in the back of a cabinet, waiting to be rediscovered. When society collapses, these overlooked tools will be worth more than food itself. Most people won't even realize it until it's too late, when desperation has already set in. That's why today, I'm breaking down 10 everyday items that will outshine food in a collapse. No gimmicks, no fancy brand name gear, just practical common sense tools that could be the difference between surviving and struggling. If you're serious about real survival, not the Instagram version, make sure you stick around until the end of this video, because the last item on this list might shock you. Let's start with the first one. Plain white candles, the light that outlasts the grid. When the power grid fails, darkness doesn't just creep in, it slams down like a hammer. Most people will scramble for flashlights they forgot to charge, or batteries that died years ago. But the prepared ones? They'll reach for something simple, cheap, and reliable. Plain, unscented white candles. Not the decorative ones, not the pumpkin spice kind, just the ordinary utility candles no one pays attention to until they're sitting in complete silence and pitch black darkness. Candles don't need batteries, chargers, or solar panels. They don't glitch, short circuit, or stop working if they get wet. Strike a match, and you've got light, warmth, and even a way to start a fire. And unlike buzzing LEDs or noisy generators, candles are silent, keeping you safe from drawing unwanted attention in a crisis. But here's where it gets interesting. Candles don't just provide light. A single candle burning in a small room can raise the temperature by a few degrees. Sounds small, right? But when you're freezing, those few degrees can be the difference between comfort and hypothermia. And don't forget about trade value. When everyone else is stumbling in the dark, a single candle becomes survival currency. Something so cheap today could buy you food, clean water, or even protection when chaos takes over. They also have countless practical uses: sealing containers with wax, waterproofing matches, or even quick emergency repairs. Personally, I keep at least 50 plain white candles stored away with waterproof matches and lighters. Because when the lights go out for good, candles stop being a luxury and become a lifeline. So here's my question for you. Do you even have a single real candle in your survival kit? If the answer is no, then you're not prepared. And when the grid goes down, you'll be left in the dark, hoping someone else thought ahead. Spoiler alert, hope isn't a survival strategy. Now let's move to item number 2, empty plastic bottles. Today's trash, tomorrow's treasure. Most people toss them without a second thought, but when disaster strikes, those bottles might be more valuable than the food in your fridge. Why? Because survival isn't about stockpiled snacks, it's about water, and without water, you've got 3 days tops. When the taps run dry, every container becomes gold. Plastic bottles are light, durable, and food safe. You can fill them, seal them, and stack them, building a water reserve while everyone else is scrambling for overpriced bottled water at the last open gas station. But that's just scratching the surface. Cut the top off a bottle, and you've got a scoop, a funnel, even a makeshift cooking pot. Fill one halfway with water, leave it in direct sunlight, and you've got a solar disinfection unit. UV rays purify the water in 6 to 8 hours. That's safe drinking water from nothing but the sun, and an old soda bottle. Still think it's trash? Think about this. Imagine offering someone a gallon of clean water after their taps have been dry for days. Or handing them a leak-proof container when their gear's been punctured. Suddenly, that bottle is worth more than their last protein bar. That's why I keep a stash of empty plastic bottles in my kit. 2-liter soda bottles, gallon milk jugs, even smaller juice containers, all cleaned, dried, and ready. They take up little space, but when the world collapses, they can do more than most people realize. So before you toss your next bottle into the recycling bin, think twice. In a collapse, That trash might just save your life. And now we get to item number 3, basic hand tools, the forgotten power of manual labor. When the power goes out and batteries die, the world goes manual. Suddenly, the person holding a simple screwdriver or wrench becomes more valuable than the guy with the biggest stockpile of canned food. Forget your electric drills, power saws, or gadgets that rely on a dead grid. When everything collapses, they're just useless paperweights. What really matters are the basics: a hammer, pliers, screwdrivers, a wrench, and maybe a small handsaw. Why? Because survival is all about improvisation. And in a collapse, things will break. Doors jam, containers leak, hinges snap, pipes crack. These aren't just minor inconveniences. They're threats to your safety, your shelter, and your ability to hold everything together. When there's no repair shop, no tech support, and no electricity, your ability to fix, build, and even break things by hand becomes your lifeline. Think about it. A screwdriver isn't just for tightening screws, it's for opening locked compartments or repairing broken gear. Pliers can patch leaks, grip hot metal, or pull nails from scavenged wood. A handsaw turns abandoned pallets into firewood or shelter. And a wrench, that's your ticket to turning off gas valves, adjusting pipes, or fixing broken wheels on a cart. Each of these tools multiplies your survival chances in ways no piece of stored food ever could. And let's not ignore their other purpose: defense. A claw hammer is more than a tool. In desperate times, it's also a deterrent. No one argues with the person holding solid steel. Now imagine the trade value. Picture this: someone's only shelter is falling apart, and you've got the tools to fix it. You're not just bartering equipment, you're trading stability, safety, and leadership. And in a collapse, that's worth more than gold. Personally, I keep a compact tool roll in my secondary pack: a multi-bit screwdriver, needle nose pliers, a crescent wrench, a mini hammer, and even a hacksaw blade. They're not for daily use. They're for that moment when everything literally starts breaking down. So ask yourself, when things fall apart, can you fix what breaks, or are you just hoping someone else will? Because in a collapse, the person with food eats first, but the person with tools, they get invited into every camp. And that brings us to number 4, heavy-duty work gloves, the armor that protects the most important survival tool you own, your hands. Here's the reality: when society crumbles, survival gets dirty. You won't be scrolling on your phone or sitting behind a desk. You'll be hauling debris, chopping wood, carrying supplies, and fixing broken gear. And you'll be doing all of it with your bare hands. Which means this: if your hands go down, you go down with them. That's why heavy-duty gloves aren't just a luxury, they're survival armor. And I'm not talking about the cheap cotton gardening gloves that rip the moment you grab something sharp. I mean the real deal: thick leather gloves, rubber-coated industrial gloves, or if you can find them, Kevlar-lined ones. These are built to take the beating, so your hands don't have to. Think about what you'll face: broken glass, jagged metal, splintered wood, sharp rocks. Every tiny cut or scrape becomes a potential infection. And here's the harsh truth: when the system is down, there's no urgent care, no pharmacy run, no easy antibiotics. A busted hand doesn't just hurt, it slows you down, makes you vulnerable, and forces hesitation. And in survival, hesitation is deadly. Gloves give you confidence. They let you grip, lift, drag, and build without fear of shredding your palms. And in freezing weather, insulated work gloves are even more critical. Frostbite doesn't care how tough you are. Without protection, your hands stiffen, lose strength, and before long, you can't work at all. But with gloves, your hands stay warm, mobile, and functional. The difference between finishing a shelter or freezing in the dark. And here's the overlooked truth: gloves are one of the most forgotten survival items. People hoard food, batteries, and water, but when it's time to clear rubble or carry firewood, they're stuck with raw, bleeding hands. That makes gloves not only a survival essential, but also a powerful trade item. So the question is, do you have a pair stashed away, or are you going to be the one wrapping bloody rags around your hands when the real work begins? Here's the thing about gloves: when everyone else is tearing their hands to shreds on jagged metal and splintered wood, the person with a spare pair suddenly has leverage. People will trade food, gear, even protection, just to keep their hands in working order. That's why I don't carry just one pair, I carry 2. One heavy-duty leather pair for rough, brutal work, and one rubber-coated pair for wet or slippery conditions. Both are sealed tight in waterproof bags, ready to go when it counts. Because when your hands are your most valuable tool, protecting them isn't optional, it's survival. So ask yourself, are your hands ready for the collapse? Or are you planning to get by with blisters and flimsy band-aids while everyone else gets the real work done? Now let's move to number 5, plastic sheeting, the ultimate survival multi-tool. Most people think plastic sheeting is just for painting walls or covering furniture during a move. But in a disaster, that overlooked roll of plastic becomes one of the most versatile life-saving items you can own. Picture this. The roof leaks, the wind is howling, rain pours in, and suddenly plastic sheeting isn't just handy, it's a lifeline. Here's the deal. Thick 6mm plastic can do almost anything. Need shelter? Stretch it over a frame, and you've got instant cover from the elements. Window shattered? Tape it up with plastic, and you're sealed off from wind and rain. Power's out and you're freezing? Use plastic to trap heat in a single room and create a survival hot zone where you can actually sleep without shivering all night. But that's only the beginning. Plastic sheeting turns bad weather into opportunity. Hang it between 2 trees, and you've got a rainwater collection system. In a collapse, clean water is survival gold. Build a solar still with it, and you can even turn dirty, contaminated water into something drinkable, just with sunlight and plastic. And it's not just water and shelter. Plastic sheeting can serve as a stretcher for the injured, a sterile barrier to stop the spread of blood or bacteria, or a way to wrap and preserve food airtight. Want to stay hidden? Black out your windows with plastic, and disappear from sight when desperate eyes are searching for supplies. Here's the kicker. Nobody thinks about plastic sheeting until they're soaked, freezing, or exposed. But when the storm hits, and you pull out a folded 9x12 drop cloth, you've instantly got something everyone around you will want. Shelter, warmth, and dryness in a package that's cheap, light, and easy to carry. My setup? I keep 4 folded sheets of heavy-duty 6mm plastic, different sizes, spread across my gear. 1 in my bug-out bag, 2 in long-term storage, and 1 in my car. They cost almost nothing, weigh almost nothing, but in a collapse, their value is immeasurable. So ask yourself, when the roof caves in or the rain starts pouring through the walls, are you ready? Or are you planning to sit in the cold and wet, praying someone else thought ahead? Because when the storm hits, the person with plastic sheeting isn't just dry, they're prepared. Now let's move to number 6, old towels and rags, the unsung heroes of survival. When people prep for disaster, they dream of high-tech gadgets, tactical knives, and fancy gear. But the humble towel, that stained old rag stuffed in your garage, often ends up being the real MVP when survival gets messy. And trust me, in a collapse, everything gets messy. Mud, blood, sweat, sickness, spills, leaks, broken gear, it all piles up fast. And if you don't have a reliable way to clean, dry, or absorb it, you're in trouble. That's where towels and rags step in. They're not flashy, but they are indispensable. Let's start with hygiene. A towel isn't just for drying off after a storm. When toilet paper runs out, and it will, towels can be cut into reusable sanitation cloths. Boil them, bleach them, reuse them. No waste, no trash, just clean. And in first aid, towels are lifesavers. They can serve as emergency bandages, makeshift slings, pressure wraps to stop bleeding, or padding to stabilize sprains and fractures. When sterile medical supplies run out, an old towel can buy you precious time. But towels aren't just for hygiene. Survival isn't just about food or fire, it's about the little things that keep you clean, warm, and human when the world around you has gone to chaos. And that's where old towels and rags prove themselves as true survival tools. Cold night, stuff a towel inside your sleeping bag, and you've got extra insulation that might save you from shivering through the dark. Drafty window? Roll a towel into the frame, and block the wind, and even some of the sound from leaking through. Need a pillow? Fold one up, and suddenly you've got comfort in the middle of collapse. And rags? Don't underestimate them. They clean your tools, wipe down cookware, wrap your fire-starting kit to keep it dry, and even act as a crude filter to strain muddy water before you purify it. They're simple, low-tech, but powerful. Now imagine this, it's been 2 weeks since the collapse. Clean water is scarce, everyone's towels are filthy, soaked, or used up. Then you walk into camp with fresh, dry cloths. In that moment you become the most popular person in the room.